How much emotion can one July practice hold? For the faithful, a whole lot more than it seems. The first full pads practice brings strength back to the heart of the defense. A rookie is starting to spark comparisons that give you chills. An old warrior is returning to the Bay, and the offense's new star has already given Brock Purdy an image nobody can ignore. My verdict is simple. San Francisco is turning anxiety into real options, and every one of them connects directly to this team's ambitions. Today we're measuring who can turn this roster from promising into dangerous. If you feel that energy too, subscribe to 49ers Express. Friday marks the 49ers' first full pads practice, and Alfred Collins is stepping back in right when the contact begins separating players who look good from players who can play football. After undergoing shoulder surgery, the defensive tackle hit the benchmarks he needed to return within the second window John Lynch had projected. That deserves to be celebrated. Not as an isolated medical victory, but as the start of an opportunity this defense desperately needs to turn into growth. Collins already showed as a rookie that he can dominate against the run. For a team that struggled to establish consistent physicality in the middle, that carries weight. If he can close lanes, move blockers, and help force opponents into third and long, the entire pass rush gets better conditions to hunt. And with Michael Williams still on the active/PUP list, few luxuries matter more than having a former top 50 pick begin his second season ready to carry more responsibility. But believing in his potential cannot erase the standard. Collins posted a pressure rate below 4% during his rookie season and batted only one pass. For an interior defender, not every contribution shows up in the sack column. Of course not. When the pocket does not move backward, the quarterback can breathe. And when a hand never enters the throwing lane, another way to disrupt the play disappears too. His second-year jump has to include some kind of threat on passing downs, whether it shows up through pocket collapse, raised arms, and constant discomfort before it reaches the flashier numbers. Garcen Halton's bone bruise makes that need even more urgent. Keon White can take snaps inside and provide versatility, but Collins has a chance to keep the rotation from depending on makeshift solutions. CJ West, meanwhile, is not practicing Friday and has been listed as day-to-day, with no details released by the team. None of this calls for panic. It calls for Collins to recognize how big this moment is. Today, the pads will answer a question no light practice ever can. Did that excellent run defender come back merely healthy, or did he come back more complete? If the pass rush has improved, San Francisco is not simply getting another body back. It is recovering the power to dictate downs, protect the linebackers, and restore that brick wall feeling in the middle of the defense. The kind that makes an offense think twice before trying to run. But the emotion shifts to the other side when the ball goes to the offense. Dazon Stribling is not simply stacking pretty training camp catches. He is creating that brief silence after a play when everybody around the field seems to be thinking the same thing. Did we just find somebody different? His size, speed, strength, intelligence, separation, and ability to absorb the system have drawn attention ever since he arrived in Santa Clara. Clay Kubiak has praised the rookie. Leonard Hankerson saw something special during the evaluation process, and Brock Purdy called him a baller, pointing to that blend of route running, intelligence, and physical power. None of that hands him an NFL career. The 49ers' past shows both sides of the temptation. Patrick Willis arrived at the 2007 camp looking too fast for the field and finished the season as Defensive Rookie of the Year with 174 tackles. 7 Pro Bowls, 5 first-team All-Pro selections, and the Hall of Fame followed. Bryant Young turned strength, size, and technique into a career in red and gold. Nick Bosa was already generating pressure and showing advanced polish in the practices of 2019 before validating all of it during the season. DeForest Buckner looked impossible to block one-on-one. Aldon Smith turned his physical gifts into 14 sacks as a rookie. Those names are not a measuring stick for demanding instant greatness from Stribling. They explain the feeling. There is a difference between praising a young player because August needs a storyline and hearing different coaches, quarterbacks, and observers point to the same traits. The noise around him is not coming from one deep ball. It comes from the impression that the package is showing up at once. The body to handle contact, the mind to absorb the offense, and the skill to create space. Then comes the warning every Niners fan remembers. Jalen Hurd ignited expectations in 2019 too. His frame, his versatility, and his preseason plays had Kyle Shanahan imagining ways to deploy him over the field. Back injuries ended that story before Hurd appeared in a regular season game. Camp can reveal talent. It cannot promise health, consistency, or an answer once the games begin to count. That is why I refuse to diminish this moment or crown Stribling before his time. I want to see how the staff tests him when the pads come on, when defensive backs grab and fight, when one wrong route costs him a rep, and when Purdy has to trust him under pressure. If the rookie keeps winning in that environment, the conversation stops being about a future role and begins touching the present of an offense carrying expectations. Some special stories start with statistics. Others begin when people who see talent every day stop what they are doing and look again. Stribling has earned that second look. Now comes the part where he has to hold it. And while the rookie tries to accelerate the future, San Francisco has opened the door for the past to walk back in with a different job. Deebo Samuel is back on a one-year, $7 million deal. The reunion ends free agency for the 30-year-old receiver and follows a season in Washington where he caught 72 passes for 727 yards and 5 touchdowns. He logged only 17 carries for 75 yards, a sign that his role no longer resembled the hybrid blueprint that made him an all-pro in the Bay. I understand the nostalgia. Deebo left behind memories that carry sound, collision, and speed. But defending this signing means looking at 2026, not trying to resurrect a version of him. Ricky Pearsall has been held out of camp because of swelling in his knee, and surgery is among the options being considered for the PCL issue. In that situation, Samuel's value begins with familiarity. The offensive language, the motions, the blocking responsibilities, and Kyle Shanahan's personality are nothing new to him. For an offense that needs to reorganize its targets without spending weeks teaching the basics, familiarity becomes time saved. The short contract puts the relationship in place too. Deebo does not need to be treated like a savior or carry the offense the way he did in 2021. He needs to give Purdy toughness and reliability, plus flexibility across alignments, while Stribling develops and Pearsall receives the care he needs. If Deebo can still punish tackle attempts, work inside, and force defenses to respect his presence in the backfield, this offense gets one of its signature weapons back without blocking anybody else's rise. The following morning, the 49ers expanded the move by adding Josiah DeGuara and Trenton Irwin, both on one-year contracts. DeGuara, a third-round pick by Green Bay in 2020, has 53 career catches for 471 yards and 3 touchdowns. In 2025, he bounced between Arizona's practice squad and roster, appearing in 12 games. Irwin has not played in an NFL game since 2024. The wide receiver went undrafted in 2019, spent 6 years with Cincinnati, totaled 46 catches for 601 yards, and remained on the Jets' practice squad last season. Neither player arrives with Deebo's emotional weight, but that is the strategic point. The front office did not bet its response on one comeback story. It added an experienced tight end, a receiver who knows the league, and a veteran who can contribute. Now it is time for the faithful's read on Santa Clara. In the comments, tell me who gains the most from Deebo's return: Purdy, Shanahan, or Stribling. My pick is Stribling because learning without being forced to carry the room can turn pressure into development. But Friday's practice delivered something no contract can manufacture: a scene. Mike Evans runs toward the pylon against Upton Stout, climbs the ladder, extends one hand, and tears the ball out of the air as he falls. One rep does not decide a season, but certain images explain a signing better than pages of analysis could. This one showed the size of the window Brock Purdy can now see when the field gets tight. Evans arrived in San Francisco as the presence a receiving corps starved for consistency was missing. The concern deserves attention because he is 32 years old and missed 9 games last season. Even so, his career has been built on stability, at least 1,000 receiving yards in each of his first 11 seasons, and never fewer than 67 catches. That does not erase the effects of time. It shows why the team believes the standard can remain high if his body responds. What fires me up is not the thought of Evans winning a 40-yard sprint. That has never been the essence of his game. It is the possibility of Purdy throwing to a spot where the cornerback appears to have coverage and the advantage belongs to the offense. Evans controls positioning, extension, contact, and ball tracking. On third down, that margin keeps drives alive. In the red zone, it changes play calls. If a defense doubles another target or crowds the middle to contain Christian McCaffrey, the quarterback can attack a one-on-one matchup without needing 3 steps of separation. The catch against Stout illustrates it perfectly. The corner was in the matchup, but being close to Evans does not mean controlling his catch radius. When the veteran shields the ball with his body and attacks it at the highest point, The defender has to play perfectly. That demand spreads across the field. Safeties start hesitating before abandoning his side. Linebackers feel the space changing inside. Shanahan gains the freedom to build heavier formations without sacrificing a threat through the air. Now connect that image to everything that came before it. Collins is trying to make the defense more complete. Stribling is rising without asking permission. Debo is back, and the depth has grown. Evans, however, gives this picture its emotional ceiling because he represents an answer for the moments when the scheme cannot create a completion. January always produces broken plays, pockets, and coverages that recognize tendencies. In those moments, a contender needs somebody who can win even when the opponent knows where the football might be headed. I am not turning one training camp catch into a championship guarantee. I am treating it as evidence of the fit San Francisco was looking for. The offense needed stability and added a target with an extraordinary reach. It needed to protect Stribling's development and surrounded the young receiver with experience. It needed to respond to the uncertainty around Pearsall and answered with volume. The challenge has changed. Keep Evans healthy, distribute the roles without living on memories, and turn that talent into conversions when the score gets tight. If that hand can appear like this in July, imagine what it could mean when 1/3 down decides the direction of the season. This was the day the 49ers began turning anxiety into visible answers. Collins returned to bring more steel to the heart of the defense. Stribling has earned everyone's attention, but now he faces the test that separates excitement from trust. Debo is back with a more mature mission, while DeGuara and Irwin expand the team's margin for error. And with one hand, Evans showed why Purdy can breathe differently on the biggest downs. The quarterback may gain the most, surrounded by experience and possibilities. Tell me in the comments who grows the most in this new picture. Subscribe to 49 ERS Express and come back tomorrow. Santa Clara is still writing this story, and we will follow every line.